Hello, YouTube and X. It's your main man, BTM, here, bringing you back to the BTM Crypto News Network. So, thanks for joining. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, let's get back to the money. So, I'm trying to see why the that's weird. Why the stream for X is not working. Anybody else having a problem with X currently? That's weird. Where's my X? Oh, that might be the problem. So this is a Bittensor video. If I can get my screen going, trying to figure out what's going on with X now. That's weird. Why is my X stream not on? But I guess we'll have to get to it either way. Let me see here. Wow, this is weird. Let's see if I can remove it and add it back. But thanks for joining, guys. Let me see if we can add it here. I might have to restart the live stream. That's weird. Dang it. Well, whatever. We're keeping it moving. We'll figure it out later. So this is your main man BTM here, bringing you back to the BTM Crypto News Network. So thanks for joining. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. So what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about Bittensor because something's happening with Tau right now that a lot of market still is not fully respecting. Tau has absolutely exploded over the last few weeks. The AI narrative is heating up again. Subnet activity let me see if I gotta update this real quick, guys. 1 second. Subnet activity. Tau has recently exploded over the past few weeks. The AI narrative is heating up again. The subnet activity is going crazy. And now the big question is there another pump, or is Bittensor becoming one of the most important stories in crypto again? And let me try X. This didn't work. I might just restart the live stream. So let me restart this real quick. Okay, we're back. I'm trying to see if this is going to work. Dang it, something must be wrong with X. Anyway, we'll keep it moving. So back to the narrative here. Tau, because you zoom out is not just about price. This is about AI incentives, infrastructure, and money rotating into one of the strongest narratives in the market. So hit the like button if you haven't already and drop the city in the chat. Let's get it. A lot Although so far the first thing we need to understand is a lot of altcoins can pump, a lot of coins can trend a few days, a lot of projects can get random hype, but not every project sits at the intersection of crypto, AI, network incentives, ecosystem growth, and speculative momentum. And that is exactly why Tau is getting so much attention again. So let's start the screen share and see what we can see. So first, big shout out to Caleb and Brown. Caleb and Brown is the official sponsor for the BTM Crypto News Network. So appreciate for that. But let me know what you guys think in the comments and why is X not working? So Caleb and Brown is a 24/7 crypto brokerage. They do help you along your crypto journey. They will give you a 24/7 support and help you with the one-on-one broker, right? So you don't have to start over. You can start from your brokerage and be good. But you can use my link in the description to sign up if you're new to crypto. You don't have to worry about licensing. You don't have to worry about passwords or what is that called? Key phrases. You can just have them self custody the crypto. So moving forward, this is a quick short. So let me see what this guy's
talking about Bittensor, aka Tau, but not enough people are talking about the subnets. And I like to think of Bittensor subnets as the altcoins within the Bittensor ecosystem. These are the top 5 by market cap. Let's check back on these in a month. Because Tau over the last month is up over 100%, and I expect a lot of people holding Tau to disperse the profits into the different subnets. I personally like SN4, Subnet 4, and I also like Subnet 64. Everyone's talking about Bittensor, aka Tau, but not enough people are talking about the subnets. And I like to think of Bittensor subnets as the altcoins within the Bittensor ecosystem. These are the top 5 by market cap. Let's check back on these in a month.
So next is another quick update. Let's see what this guy has to say.
I told you Tau was about to move, and now it's exploding. So here's the scary part. Most people still don't actually understand really what this is. And this isn't just another altcoin pump. This could potentially be one of the biggest AI plays in crypto right now. So Tau is the native token of Bittensor, a decentralized AI network. So basically, instead of big tech companies like OpenAI controlling AI, Bittensor allows anyone to build AI models and basically get rewarded on how useful the AI models are. So the better your AI performs, the more Tau that you'll earn. So guys, keep your eyes peeled on this project as it's looking like one of the biggest alpha plays this year. I told you Tau.
So shout out to that other quick update. And we have one more, and then we'll get back to it. Look at the bubbles.
By a few giants. Think OpenAI, Google, Nvidia, Microsoft, and there are so many other companies that come to mind. But today I want to talk about Bittensor. What if intelligence itself became a market? Not apps, not models, raw intelligence, bought, sold, and ranked and rewarded. That's where Bittensor comes in. So you might be asking, what is Bittensor? Bittensor is a decentralized AI network. Instead of one company training one model, we've got thousands of machines that run AI models. They talk to each other and they compete to give the best answers. And then the network decides who is the smartest. The system is called proof of intelligence. The better your AI performs, the more Tau you earn. So instead of mining one Bitcoin, you're mining intelligence. As most of you might know already, centralized AI is broken. As you can tell, AI is usually owned by a company, data is locked, and power is centralized. So you might be wondering, how is Bittensor any different? Well, first of all, AI is open. Intelligence is commoditized in this case, so anyone can plug in and earn. It's like turning AI into Bitcoin, but for brains. And that's why some investors are calling it the infrastructure layer of the AI economy. Tau isn't just a token. It's a reward system for useful AI, a currency for machine intelligence, a signal of value inside the network. If your model is useful, you earn Tau tokens. If not, you simply get ignored. So one of the main reasons the project was actually trending recently is because CEO of NVIDIA, he mentioned Bittensor's model, and that alone sent the price through the roof. Well, also, I guess, like the other bigger investors highlighted its decentralized AI training breakthrough. In simple words, they're saying it's not just a simple crypto project anymore, it's entering the real AI conversations. This is probably the most underrated part. Bittensor isn't just one network, it's made out of subnets. Each subnet is a specialized AI task. More subnets equals to more use cases. So more use cases you have, there's more demand for Tau token. This expansion is directly driving value as well. If AI becomes the most valuable resource in the world, then the system that prices intelligence becomes even more valuable. That's what Bittensor is trying to be. Not just another AI tool, not another crypto coin, but the marketplace for intelligence itself. Right now, Tau is trending because of hype, price action, big endorsements, but underneath that, there's much bigger idea, turning intelligence into an asset class. And if that idea works, Tau is not just another altcoin. It becomes something much bigger, the currency of AI.
So shout out to Masha Web3 for that quick Tau update. I'm still trying to figure out why this Twitter, the live stream is not working. I don't understand what's going on here. See if we can remove it and add it back. That's weird. But keeping it moving, we'll look at the bubbles real quick. So on the bubbles, it looks like not such a great day in the market, but Mama said there'll be days like this. So we're going to keep it pushing. AVAS is down 6.9, Bitcoin's down 3.6, Algorand's down 4.5, Tao's down 3.6. Tao's down 3.6 on the day, up 1% on the hour, down 34.1 on the week, up 30.4, I'm tripping, on the week, up 103 on the month, and up 29.5 on the year to $341.42. Prime's down 7.3. Only thing up looks to be Swarms at 7.6. Caspa's down 7.4. Ethereum Classic is down 5.8. Satoshi's is down 6.2. XPR is down 5.6. Casper's down 9.5. Link is down 5.6. World Mobile Token, World Liberty Financial is down 4.5. Zcash is down 5.8. Solana's down 6.8. Nero's down 6.6. Monero's down 4.7. Canon Network is down 1.1. Safe is down 4.6. Elysium is up 1.3. ZBCN is down 2.7. XLM's down 3.3. Litecoin's down 3.6. I think that's most of the heavy hitters. ZK's down 5.6. Flare's down 1.9. Helium's down 5.4. Stronghold's down 3.8. Ethereum is down 6% on the day. Trump coin's down 5.9. I think that's most of what we usually look at. So over to X, even though X is not connecting for some weird reason. Close this out. Currently, make sure you sign up for the BTM Crypto News Network. So this is Bittensor Tau. What's your price prediction for April 14th when I return from Mexico? Feel that Tau season is coming. The native token of Bittensor Tau doubled its price in March. Bittensor Tau, Tau USA. So looking at the graph here, Bittensor's market cap doubled in 2.5 weeks. Traders are not believing the hype. Bittensor's social volume and positive negative sentiment data on Sandbase second highest volume spike in 6 months. So that is good. And we're finally live on freaking X. What up, Trinity for Life? Thanks for joining. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The X finally started working. I'm not sure what happened, but we're live on X finally. Thanks for joining, guys. Moving forward, this is Templar Cuts Luminite something. Ever heard of Bittensor subnets? Bittensor is more than just, oh wow, it's not even English. Just Tau, 100 plus AI projects in the Bittensor ecosystem have their own crypto tokens. Warning, this is not for the faint heart investors. And here's that subnet. This is all the subnets on Bittensor. And for some reason, I'm not sure people are aware of the entire process. And if we noticed yesterday, we got in GTAO, Bittensor Trust, at 822, and we're up a full dollar, which that's what I'm talking about. Let's freaking go. So back over to X. Gradients. SN56 is undervalued, ranked 11, top tier volume. Fully saturated UIDs, best auto machine learning info on Bittensor is still priced like a side quest. This is the AI subnet that actually earns. So we need to look into that. I need to get some full details about the subnets. So here is the subnet actual prices, right? So there's Cornstar. I guess this is Trajectory. Oh, wow. Quantum, Init, Basic, Unknown. How's there an unknown subnet? That's weird. Loots, Omega, Inc., The Awakening, Data Universe, Nova. So that's sorting by hour. Let's sort by 24 hours. And let's sort by 1 month. Oh, wow. Up 1,781%. I think to buy the subnet tokens, you have to use your Bittensor, the actual token, to buy into the subnets. But we can look at that also a little deeper at some point. Maybe we'll do a video about buying the subnets. So, although here's the first thing you need to understand. A lot of altcoins can pump. A lot of altcoins can trend for a few days. A lot of projects can get random hype, but every project that gets to sit at the intersection of not every project gets to sit at the intersection of crypto, AI, native incentive, network incentives, ecosystem growth, and speculative momentum. And that is exactly why Tau is getting so much attention again, because right now, Bittensor is not just talking about like just another coin. It is being talked about like a serious decentralized AI network with a growing ecosystem forming around it. And the difference matters. So let's talk about the price action first. Recent reporting says Tau has surged more than 140% in 6 weeks, which is crazy unheard of. Show me another token that is up 140% in 6 weeks, while CoinGecko shows it's up 34% over the last 7 days. The price sitting around the high 330s to the low 340s and a massive daily volume. And I was looking at Tau. Actually, I got in Tau at, it was down to like 150, right? So I got in, let me see, sometime last week or a couple of weeks ago. I've been staking Tau just for transparency, right? I'm not trying to fade anybody. Oh wow, maybe it was, no man, it was like 150. Yeah, somewhere in here. No, it was last month, I think. somewhere in February. I started buying it. It was like 150. So maybe it came back up. Stupid thing will get out the way. And you can see here, this is the beginning of the month, less than 21 days ago. 3 weeks, right? 3 weeks exactly. And it went from 157 up to 370. So you would have doubled your money. Not financial advice. This is just for entertainment purposes. So currently it's $340.73. Down 3.63% on the day. Market cap is 3.6 billion, down 3.6. 24-hour trading volume is 815.1 million, down 33.4%. Tile just exploded through 320 USD resistance, called in my last post, where fear and greed is sitting around 25 out of 100. Everyone's panicking about the Hermet's tensions. I flagged the whale accumulation. Now Tau is trading at 342, up 3.97%. Here's what just happened. $320 support flipped to resistance. Breaking upside. Institutional buyers absorbed the dip during the micro fear. 3.3 billion USD market cap, holding strong despite broader crypto uncertainty. So let's look at that actually. So here is the market cap for crypto, 2.3 trillion. It is down 2.78%. CMC 20 is $140.38, down 3.76%. Fear and greed is going back to fear. I think it was neutral at the beginning of the week. I need to go back and check my videos. Currently, altcoin season's at 47, so it is going up. I want to say it was at 40 earlier, but it is pushing back up. So let me know what you guys think. Average crypto RSI is 40.62. So it is pulling back away to oversold, and we're pulling away from Bitcoin dominance. So now that kind of move gets attention for real, because one project starts moving that hard, people begin asking what is happening, who is buying. Is it smart money? Is this just hype? Is it too late? Of course not. Is it hype? Of course not. Is it smart money? You best believe it. Who's buying? Looks like it's retail guys. Is it too late? No. Is this only the beginning? Yes. Right. I've been telling you guys for a while, Tau is on the verge of taking over crypto. Somebody's video said yesterday, Tau's probably going to be in the top 5 by the end of the year, maybe in the top 3 of all crypto. I've been seeing things where people are saying Tau might eventually flip Bitcoin, which is crazy, but think about it. As I've been telling a lot of people, Bitcoin doesn't have a lot of utility, right? Tau is literally the AI hub for crypto. So just think of Tau like the Google of crypto. At some point, it's going to run. It's going to run like crazy. And for Tau to think the answer is bigger than just momentum, because the move is not happening in a vacuum. It's happening while AI narratives is getting stronger. And in crypto, when a narrative and price action line up at the same time, that is when things get very explosive. This is where Bittensor gets dangerous, because Tau is attached to one of the most powerful narratives in the entire market, decentralized AI. Let's be honest. AI is one of few themes that can pull in attention from crypto traders, tech people, venture people, retail investors, and even people outside of crypto. That gives Tau an edge, because this is not just here's another blockchain. This is a project that people can frame as, what if AI became an open market? What if intelligence became a network? What if contributors were rewarded through crypto incentives? That story is easy to understand, and more importantly, it's easy to get excited about. This is why I think Tau keeps finding its way back into the spotlight. And that's what I was telling you guys. There's no way to contain Tau, even if the crypto market is down, which it is, right? Tau keeps running. Tau's down a little bit, but that's where we were low key. Yeah, this is where we were yesterday, right? It came back to the new support, which is 340, right? It came up and went down, and now it's sitting back at where it started at a couple days ago. And that was up from, let's see, today's 23rd. What was Monday? The 21st, I think. What was Monday? Today is Thursday, Monday, the 23rd. So from Monday, it was at $2.78. So it's been up 34% this week, and it is still up almost a quarter of what it was Monday, right? And with the market conditions, what else has been doing this kind of number since Monday? Let's see if we can go to time. I wonder if we can sort by crypto in the last week. I bet you Tau's at the top. Yeah, so this is Tau in Siren, but I think Siren's a meme coin, right? A lot of people have been talking about Siren, but I don't know. But look at this volume. On the day, it is 2.38 million. So 24-hour volume, it is killing it. Oh, wow. This Siren is 728 million. What the freak is? Okay, that didn't help. So it's number 2 in the week. I ain't doing a whole lot on the day chart. And on the hour chart, nothing there either. So go back to the weekly chart. And the circulating supply is only 10 million, which is also probably why the price is going so hard, right? So let me know what you guys think about that. So now here's the part I really want you to pay attention to, the subnet story. And I'm going to put a video on in a minute, but I want to push this subnet real quick. This is where Bittensor starts looking less like a single crypto and more like an expanding ecosystem. Binix Crypto reported that the amount of Tau staked across subnets grew from roughly 74,000 to more than 620 million. Stop the cap. From 74,000 to 620 million over the last year. CoinGecko's Bittensor subnet category currently shows around 1.45 billion in market cap. So CoinGecko does have a say hello to my friend. It's been a while, CoinGecko. That was my go-to for a long time because it was the only one that was really giving good price information. But they didn't have a lot of stuff, so that's why I started going back to CoinMarketCap. But let's see CoinGecko. And let's see if we can find. Go back to dark mode because I don't like the light. Where is the subnet information for? I don't see subnet on here. That's weird. Wonder how you find the subnets. Let's see if we can search subnet. Oh, subnet tokens. Oh, wow. So I guess they do have it. And I guess we can go ahead and save this guy because we're going to be back here. So subnet tokens. Oh, wow. This guy's already at $2. Wait, this guy's at $28? Shut the front door. 29, 22, 29, 21, 28. Wow, I see why it's pumping so hard. These guys are already in the 20s. What the freak is going on here? So, this is not a tiny side note. This is a huge signal because capital starts flowing into subnets. What it says is this: people are not only buying the main asset, they're starting to believe there's economy growing inside the network. And once that starts happening, the conversation changes. It stops being is tile pumping and becomes is Bittensor building an ecosystem that the market is still underestimating? That is a much bigger conversation. So let me know in the chat, do you think Tau is being driven by AI hype, real ecosystem growth, subnet speculation, or pure momentum traders? So do you think Tau is driven by A, AI hype, B, real ecosystem growth, C, subnet speculation, and D, pure momentum traders? I think the answer is a mix of all four. But the reason it is important is because the strongest moves usually happen when hype and fundamentals start reinforcing each other. And that may be exactly what we're watching right now. Now, here's why Tau feels different from random altcoin pumps. When you look at most tokens, you usually get one of two things: either a good chart and no real story, or a good story and no real chart. Example XRP, a Zubik in Caspa. Good stories, but no real price action. Tau right now has both. It has a strong narrative, a strong price action, strong ecosystem chatter, and growing attention around subnets. That combination is powerful because the market loves stories, but they love stories even more when money is actually providing that people believe in them. And that is exactly why more people are starting to pay attention to Tau. Okay, so I need to run real quick and I'll be back. I'm gonna put a video on and I'll be back in about 15 minutes, right? I gotta go up the street. And I found a long video to cover the gap. This guy's talking about you need to realize this about Bittensor before it's too late. So shout out to Scape, which was actually a Caspa guy, which is weird. But let's see what he's talking about.
For you as well, I'm going to be comparing Bittensor Tau to an optimized architecture model that is not yet implemented, but it very well could be. This is proof of useful work. And there's a lot of things out there. For example, a lot of these concepts may sound good as a headline, but it's not applicable whatsoever to global adoption in any way for AI. And even Yonatan Sampolinsky's own thoughts on this development, and of course, going forward, what that means for an ideal optimized architecture on the layer one. What does that mean for Bittensor Tau? What does that mean for other possible cryptos out there? What it means to actually be useful, what it means to be able to scale, not just within like a crypto environment, but to be able to scale with this massively growing industry of AI, for them to come on board it to this crypto architecture and how that can be done going long term. I'll be explaining in depth at the end of the video. Tau is one of the most centralized cryptos that exist, and I'm going to be explaining and sharing exactly why and how. And with that comes some drastic security concerns as well. And then the cherry on top is the inefficiencies of its scalability. They have a great idea. They have a great concept that they're trying to make work. And that's been their goal from the start, to get working on integrating AI with crypto. But it is extremely far from being optimized. First and foremost, we got to clear any sort of misconception. All right. The underlying subtensor blockchain, Bittensor's chain, is a proof of authority, POA. All right. It's not proof of stake. It's not proof of work. It's POA. And unfortunately, this has a lot of drawbacks in terms of decentralization. So going into proof of authority prioritizes reputation and identity over computational power or wealth. You're comparing even to proof of work and proof of stake. Relying on fixed number of trusted validators. These validators are selected based on identity, reputation, or trustworthiness. Okay, there's a lot of trust here. That's something that you're going to have to really live with Tau. POA, a limited approved set of nodes, historically controlled and gated by Open Tensor Foundation. Well, actually, it's a lot worse than that. Open Tensor Foundation, otherwise known as OTF, are the ones that handle a few nodes. This is the foundation that handles everything for consensus, for confirming transactions, and maintaining the chain's history. The centralization concern spreads directly to security. It introduces some centralization in node governance. Now, I'm going to deep dive into this, okay, because this is really surface level material. Layer one, this is the security, okay? The layer one is literally just proof of authority. The subtensor is where the transaction validation is performed only by trusted nodes controlled by the Open Tensor Foundation. This raises decentralization concerns as the Open Tensor Foundation has full control over the network, including the ability to censor transactions. And it doesn't just stop at censoring transactions, unfortunately. I'll be going into depth about that. They say a transition to proof of stake is planned. The timeline is still unknown. So right now we're talking about proof of authority. And even if they go to proof of stake already has some pretty hard limitations compared to proof of work, of which I don't know if I need to explain it to you, but the proof of stake model, the security is not nearly as good as proof of work. Proof of work, with Bitcoin, Caspa, for example. Proof of stake, it's first off, it's a lot more centralization of wealth. Security model is not as good. 33% Byzantine fault tolerance versus 50% Byzantine fault tolerance on proof of work. The proof of work takes the crown in terms of security. So ideally, they look for a proof of work solution, and that's what I'm going to be giving at the end of the video. So stay tuned. But for now, we're going to be going into the depths of this architecture. There is no crypto economic security budget here at all. It's proof of authority. So no attacker needs to acquire hash power or stake to compromise the chain. They just need to compromise the Open Tensor Foundation, which is a single legal entity. This is strictly worse than proof of stake, let alone proof of work. So the fact of being even worse than proof of stake, it's a pretty low blow. And it's running very similar to a startup company in a very centralized way. The management, the oversight, it's coming from this single foundation. All right, let's explain the subtensor chain validators. All right, this is on the L1. This on the L1 is the most extreme centralized part of the entire architecture. All right, this is the blockchain itself. The work of validating the blockchain itself is performed by the Open Tensor Foundation on proof of authority model. That means there's no public validator set. OTF, the Open Tensor Foundation, runs the nodes that actually author and finalize blocks. All right, so how are validators chosen? They're not chosen through any open mechanism. It's the Open Tensor Foundation. They simply run trusted whitelisted nodes. It's like basically insiders, a few of them. There's no staking, there's no election, there's no competition. So that raises significant decentralization concerns. They have full control over the network, including the ability to censor transactions. And as I'm going to explain, it doesn't just stop at censoring transactions. That's why I'm so surprised that Bittensor Tau has such a high valuation, because there's some real security concerns here. And there's been multiple successful attack vectors already done on Bittensor Tau. And I'll be explaining that later in the video. Attacks that have been successful for tens of millions of dollars. So the Open Tensor Foundation has ability to pause the blockchain entirely when necessary. And again, as I mentioned, that the transition to proof of stake is planned. The timeline is unknown. And even transitioning to proof of stake would be not just any normal transition, but it's going to be having to change the entirety of its architecture. And that's no easy task, especially for this foundation that has really taken a quick lane, a quick route to releasing by releasing as proof of authority and releasing the way that they have via substrate model. And I'm going to be explaining that as well. So the layer 1 blockchain validators, the exact number of nodes is not publicly disclosed. This is a major red flag. Going to be honest, the Open Tensor Foundation doesn't publish a list of its block anchoring nodes. The work of validating the blockchain is performed by their foundation, meaning it's a private, trusted set of nodes. There's no public registry, no election, no way of independently verifying the count, let alone cryptographically verifying. The best estimates from the community are somewhere in the single digits to low tens of nodes, all controlled by the Open Tensor Foundation. I mean, this is just crazy, man. Honestly, this is pretty crazy. And I'm going to just be going into these depths of like what this actually means. It's not just about censoring transactions, but it's double spend, reorgs, MEV front running, emission manipulation, network halts, runtime upgrade to change balances, insider theft. In these cases, some of which have even happened. So this is pretty, honestly, pretty wild that here we are talking about AI, and AI has so much hype around it that unfortunately I see this largely as this whole concept, this whole idea, trying to make it work, but the underlying architecture just is not there. It's not there whatsoever. And to call this a crypto is very far from the cypherpunk values of decentralization, because with decentralization, it's hand in hand with security. Once you have a single point of failure and someone that has complete control over the entire blockchain with their nodes, they can literally do anything. They could perform any sort of attack and multiple sorts of attacks. And it's just a whole trust me bro coin. And that doesn't sit well with me. Sure, it's going to have a lot of speculative investors, but to be worth already billions, I mean, gosh, even a fully diluted market cap of, I think, $5 billion, that's putting a lot of money in a place that may not have the best interests of the actual people. And it's crazy too, looking at the fully diluted value is 5.5 billion, and looking at the total supply, about half of it is circulating. The other half is still to be rewarded to people, to validators, into miners, people working the AI, people that are overlooking the AI work, people that are staking and just randomly just deciding to stake that staked money, just gaining a lot more money. It's just like so much money. I mean, look at that. That's that's literally around $2.8 billion. It's about half the entire current valuation is still to be entered into the market in the next 15 years, something like that. But that's a lot of money still to be entered in the market. So if this whole system doesn't upgrade fast, then it's going to have a lot of sell pressure from this emission schedule. And it's going to look, it's not going to be pretty for investors that are here investing without understanding the deep architecture of it and the issues that come from this architecture. And it's not just about the layer 1 not being optimized, but it's also about the layer 2 not being optimized. The way the work is being measured of the AI, the miners, the validators are looking at that work in a very subjective way. Even if you want to look at it, some of the miners, or I want to say even most of them, looking at it in an objective way. They use math to be able to see if the work being done is providing actual real benefits to the output of an AI model. It can be even looking at it in a lens of, okay, even if it were objective, there's no way to cryptographically prove that these validators are taking it objectively, that they are actually using the rubric. There's nothing to prove it. All they do is they can submit some random numbers that they want, and say, yeah, I used the rubric, or yeah, I ran the model. But there's no cryptographic proof. Again, it's a trust me, bro. It doesn't stop at the L1, but it goes to the L2. And this is something I'm going to be explaining in depth in the video as well. When you have so much control at the top, all it takes is one bad actor, one bad egg, and it can ruin the whole entire organization. So the core innovation, now this is looking at the layer 2. The layer 1 itself focuses on the blockchain itself. The layer 2 focuses on the AI, okay? So the core innovation is the Yuma consensus, okay? This is described as a form of proof of intelligence, or a subjective, not even objective, but a subjective utility consensus. This is on-chain mechanism, aggregates weights that validators assign to miners based on the quality of their AI output. Okay, so basically you have these validators. One set of validators is here, the Open Tensor Foundation, okay, running the blockchain validators. This is for everything to do with the blockchain, transactions, balances, everything to do with the blockchain, okay? And then you have the AI model. Basically, the validators here are different validators, and their job is to evaluate the work of the AI miners. And the miners here who are providing computational work for specific AI outputs. So there's basically a rubric that these validators work with. And it uses stake-weighted medians, outlier clipping, and other techniques to determine reward emissions for miners and validators. This is where the AI staking miners all come into play. Now we're looking at a system that is at least a lot more decentralized than the layer ones, which is ironic because you would think the foundation of the whole architecture of the crypto should be the most decentralized part. But here we are, layer 2 is on a very unstable foundation. Okay, so this here at least has a fixed number of validators, 64 validators for the root subnet. Okay, then for every other regular subnet, again, it uses the top 64 nodes by a stake weighted model. The ones that stake the most tau are going to be able to serve as a validator, basically, what this means. Now, however, even the layer 2 subnet security is also not great because it's concentrated, okay? It has a considerable concentration in both stake, meaning the tau, like the money, and the rewards, okay? So these rewards are largely tailored to these validators that are basically trying to measure, is this work actually good? Is this providing an output that's useful for AI? So the overwhelming amount of money is not paid for doing good AI work. You get paid for having a lot of tau staked. So the incentive mechanism is just, it's not aligned completely. It's about half and half. So you have these multiple layers that are very suboptimal. And even within these layers, it's once again a system that is not completely optimized. This staking here, unlike proof of stake, for example, that serves a security purpose, this staking doesn't serve security at all. The security is all based on the blockchain proof of authority. Okay, the validators, the number of them, completely unknown. So that's the largest red flag, about this. They're not even publicizing it. The community estimate is a few nodes. You count them on the single hand. That's an estimate. Okay, so appointed by and controlled by the Open Tensor Foundation. It's not open. Okay, then the validators for layer 2, it's a fixed 64. There's not even a replacement mechanism that's currently active. This replacement mechanism is frozen, and who knows when it's going to be back online. So you have these validators that, whether they're doing a good job, whether they have a lot of staked amount, they're stuck at 64, same 64 validators in the root subnet. Okay, again, that's a bit of a red flag. And then each regular subnet, up to 64 validators total, top 64 by staked weight. Okay, so this is just a little summary. Network wide, all subnets includes about 37,000 validators. So that's like all the different subnets. Every single subnet has 64. And those 64 just work for that single subnet. So this total amount at least can help distribute some of the staked tau, but that's basically what that represents. Okay, now again, looking at governance, security, here we go. It is also centralized. Okay, so there's a governance model, and they tried to at least make something a little bit more decentralized, but in doing so, you could see the point of this is not to actually decentralize the crypto, decentralize Bittensor. No, it's actually just to look like it's decentralized. But in the end of the day, it is extremely centralized because at the very end, they have a unilateral kill switch. Open Tensor Foundation has a kill switch. They have a pseudo command, bypassing governance entirely. They could push the code that they want in an emergency, perhaps. Call.
So what up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the moon. Yo, what up from New Zealand? Thank you for joining from New Zealand. Weatherton. What is that? Good day, mate. Is that New Zealand or is that Australia? In Australia by New Zealand? I don't know what's the plan today. We're going over subnets, and this guy's explaining how the subnet system works, and is downtrending at the moment because to the moon 69, the market's downtrending, right? The whole market is down 2.6%, and Bittensor is down 3.5%. But if you notice, this is yesterday, it was at 350 and it's only at 341 and coming back up. So it ain't doing horribly bad, but I guess we can. Well, let's finish this guy out at least till we get a good stopping point, and then we'll look at the what is this? Let Caesar do some analysis there.
Call it what you want. In a hack, an emergency, it is what it is during different circumstances. But at the end of the day, this is the centralization that scares me to death. So first, let's look at what the model, what this DAO, this governance represents. Okay, there's a triumvirate composed of Open Tensor Foundation employees, creates all the proposals. Okay, so that's again just, I mean, that's not ideal. The fact that they could only create proposals. So hey, the Senate then is formed from the top delegates by stake, and then they vote on the proposal. And then the proposal only executes after reaching 50 plus 1% of the Senate approval, and it requires a triumvirate member to close it. But the OTF, Open Tensor Foundation, needs to close it. Basically, they have the final vetoing power. If they don't agree with the Senate, they can just be like, they could just scrap it. And then the proposal just vanishes and nothing happens from it. So the Open Tensor Foundation has veto power over all governance. You realize how centralized this whole architecture is. And it's not just from one angle. It's not just in one certain aspect. It's every single aspect of Bittensor Tau. It is extremely oriented in a centralized manner. And they have their little back doors, this kill switch. Even if the Senate unanimously votes for something, the triumvirate member must close it and they can kill it if they want to. Okay, so what does this do? We're looking at the power of the Open Tensor Foundation. This is looking at blockchain power. Okay, if you have a lot of money, you're moving on Bittensor Tau. If you're even holding a lot of money on Bittensor Tau, this is a problem because there's transaction censorship. Meaning, if you send a transaction, they can choose because they have the power of the nodes. They could, the Open Tensor Foundation, with the few little nodes they have, the unknown private ones that we have no idea about, proof of authority. There you go. They can be, you send a transaction, they could be like, not interested in that transaction, so they could censor it, and that doesn't get on the blockchain. Precedent, likely this has happened. You double spend, reorgs. All right, is this possible? Yes, absolutely possible. Once you have full control of a node, the nodes that control the blockchain, what transactions get on the blockchain. The Open Tensor Foundation could absolutely create a double spend attack. So the double spend happens when a crypto is spent more than once. This is a ridiculous problem that is even possible. The fact that it's even possible is just wild. So fortunately, there's nothing publicly known about such an attack happening. But the fact that it's possible shows how much trust is required in the Open Tensor Foundation. MEV front running. Yes, it's possible and it's actively occurring. This is something I'm going to go into depth as well later in the video, but this is a major problem. And the solution they put is just a little band-aid. Emission manipulation. This is absolutely possible. And it has even happened with an SN28 intervention. The Open Tensor Foundation, they came in, and the fact that they changed things, they could change it without even a Senate approval with a certain pseudo command that is inherent. It's basically admin powers. It's like, oh, this whole Senate exists, but guess what? We have the master key, and if we want to do something emergency, hey, we can just do it. That is the power of centralization, and that is exactly what crypto was made to overcome. A network halt. This has even happened. Again, Open Tensor Foundation can halt the entire network. I mean, when you see any network that just has a foundation that's able to halt it, a few people are able to halt the whole network, you know there's a problem. So they halt a network, And they've done this in July 2024. And I'm pretty sure this has happened numerous times, not just July 2024. The fact that they have the power to continue to do this so is also another major red flag. Runtime upgrade change to change balances is just wild. The fact that they could just on the fly introduce an upgrade to the network, the entire blockchain, and to change and update balances. They can manipulate the supply and do as they wish. They could change certain balances. Oh, you own this amount. Okay, you're going to own less, and I'm going to own more, and it's going to still have them maintain the same supply. But you're never going to know because hey, maybe that wallet is dead and gone. Maybe the wallet has been inactive, and that's the power that these people have if they want to. It's all about ethics, right? It's all about trust, right? No, that's not what crypto is about. Okay, so there's even insider theft, man. Insider theft. This has happened, and it's happened at $28 to $30 million hack that was only possible via an insider in the Open Tensor Foundation. Only possible. Again, this is talking about the centralization, the single point of failure. All you need is one single rogue person in this whole foundation to cause such a crazy hack worth $30 million. It's happened before, and guess what? It's very much possible to happen again because the underlying infrastructure has not changed. It's continuing to be this very poor architecture on the layer one. So now explaining the runtime upgrades possible on the substrate. The substrate represents the chain that essentially the blockchain of Bittensor Tau. Okay, this is the model that they run on, substrate. Okay, there's two ways to upgrade. The one is the decentralized version, or so it seems, the governance path. This is documented process. Open Tensor Foundation proposes, the Senate votes, triumvirate member closes it. This is what the docs describe as a decentralized path. But then guess what? Surprise, it doesn't just end there. It doesn't just end with the triumvirate member having to have the power to decide whether they actually want this proposal to the Senate vote on. Do they want it to do they want it to go through? It's up to them. It's up to the Open Tensor Foundation in the end. The pseudo key path. Now, this is the master key. Every substrate chain ships with a pseudo pallet, a master key that can execute any extrinsic directly, bypassing governance entirely. They could push the code that they want. Now, the critical question is whether it's still being used or whether it has been fully revoked. Now, that's the bad news because looking at live GitHub commits, recent subtensor releases include functions like the pseudo set bounds, add pseudo set bounds recently as 2025. And not just 2025, but I checked myself and it was just 3 months ago that I go here, the blockchain, and I sort it by a pseudo command. And here we go from just 3 months ago. They go toggling the weights, toggling user liquidity, the tempo. They're doing all sorts of things. From 3 months ago, the pseudo command is being used. So that's just, it's wild, man. It's honestly wild. So the fact that they have the power, the fact that they're not fully revoking this power, and the fact that they're constantly using this master key as they wish, pretty recently too. And this is the stuff that you don't see. This is the stuff that's not advertised. This is the stuff that will not be advertised. Gosh, even on the Tau, their docs explaining mining and validation, like something that's very easily misunderstood. And here they say, is it the same as Bitcoin? No, there's some key differences. The Bitcoin miners, they validate blocks according to proof of work, so they can be added to the blockchain. Bittensor mining has nothing to do with blocks on the chain. Instead, it has to do with production of digital commodities. That's referring to the computational power for working an AI model. Similarly, validation within subnets has nothing to do with validating blocks. It concerns validating the work performed by miners. So they're using these same words, mining and validation, when it has nothing to do with the actual meaning of those words in traditional blockchains. So is that done on purpose in a way that can easily lead to misinterpretation and misunderstanding of what Tau represents or what Tau, how it actually works? So is there a separate blockchain validation on Bittensor? Yes, indeed. In Bittensor, the work of validating the blockchain is performed by Open Tensor Foundation on a proof of authority model. I noticed it just stops there. The information stops there. They don't want to go in depth about it, because if they go in depth about it, that's going to raise all the red flags. And it's funny too. You go in the summary and on CoinMarketCap, and then the same type of deal. They talk about, oh, how's it secured? Oh, it's so secure. It's all of this, all of that. And at the end of the day, they don't mention anything about the power and the centralization and the lack thereof security. They don't talk about that, because at the end of the day, they want to focus on AI and that whole narrative that's easily hyped. It's very easy to market, oh, Tao, they're all about AI on blockchain, AI on crypto. But hey, don't talk about our centralization and lack of security, because hey, we just don't have that. We don't have the decentralization. We don't have that security that you are accustomed to in cryptos. We don't want to talk about that. Here I am. This is one of the most important things about a crypto. And that's why I mentioned in previous videos, it's all about optimization. If you're going to have Bittensor Tau, it needs to be run on the most optimized layer 1. What's the most optimized layer 1? Well, I've done my research and I found out it's Caspa. Okay, I've explained Caspa. I have my whole channel focusing on Caspa. So if you want to understand what makes that the most optimized crypto layer 1, well, there's a lot of resources there for you. For example, one path that Bittensor has going to the future. I'll be explaining in depth about another path that could still stay with Caspa, referring to useful proof of work. Now, this is a model that can absolutely save Bittensor Tau, or a different crypto. For example, even Caspa could integrate that technology to make Bittensor look like a play tool. So it depends who wants to integrate it first and who wants to integrate it on the most optimized layer 1, because that's going to be able to power it long-term to global adoption, not just some sort of playground. All right, looking back at the power stack of the Open Tensor Foundation, what can Open Tensor Foundation do? They have the pseudo key. That's the mechanism. They could do anything. They could mint. They could mint tokens. They could freeze. They could upgrade runtime. They could change balances. It's just ridiculous, the power that this admin key, this master key, gives them. Required governance? None. So centralization and a major security problem with the whole blockchain of Bittensor, okay? And this stuff needs to come to light. I'm happy to share this stuff. And I'm honestly sad, because there seemed like there's a lot of people from Caspa just jumping on board this ship without understanding what the heck they're actually investing in. They're investing in AI. They have this whole grand model, the whole grand idea of what Bittensor is. But in reality, they're not putting their feet on the ground and seeing how this actually works. So proof of authority, block production, there's censorship, there's reordering, front running, double spending. All these different attacks are all absolutely possible by not just any random third-party entity, but it's all possible by a single centralized entity, the one that controls the whole operation, Open Tensor Foundation. And that's something that we have already seen an insider from the Open Tensor Foundation to do such an attack and to get away with a hack worth $30 million. That has already been done. And it's certainly a precedent that can happen again. It requires governance? No. Centralization leads to security problems. Triumvirate veto. Okay, they could block any Senate proposal. So any proposal that goes to the Senate then has to, whether they agree, disagree, at the end, it's just the Open Tensor Foundation has the final veto on whatever heck the Senate agrees on. So requires governance? No. Safe mode. There's a safe mode mechanism that can freeze the entire chain. What that includes is also every single transaction frozen. Okay, this has already been done twice. Like I've mentioned, it wasn't just done in 2024, it's done twice. So does it require governance? No. The OTF, Open Tensor Foundation, they can just put that into safe mode. That master key can unlock the entire chain any way that they want. Anything they can do anything. Runtime upgrade via sudo, change all chain logic in one block. Bruh. It requires governance vote? No. Okay, this is something that centralization of crypto, it's not taken seriously. It's really not. This centralization, I also mentioned it and made a whole video in depth about Cubic. It's funny because it's talking about useful proof of work, but in reality, that's the whole architecture was an extreme mess, a different type of mess, but in similar manner, complete mess. The underlying architecture is what matters most, and if you don't have it, if you have something extremely centralized, what are you doing? I mean, we're here investing in crypto, are we not? Or are we investing some random startup, some sketchy startup that has a grand idea, and they're trying to get this idea working with some pretty rugged underlying architecture? I don't know. All right, then we got the Senate governance, the routine parameter changes. Does this require governance? Yes, but the Open Tensor Foundation must close it. They have the final say on what happens here. So again, this is just, it's not ideal. Going to be honest, not ideal, and that's why I personally only invest in the most optimized. Okay, I'm there. I'm there and choosing Casper because it's the most optimized, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking at a system that's worthy for the test of time and is possible to have a global adoption. 8 billion people can be onboarded to a layer one. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a system that can bring about the speeds that Visa can handle. The speeds in decentralization. I'm looking for the most decentralized crypto. I'm looking for the most secure crypto. I'm looking at the most scalable crypto. This is what I'm looking for, because when you have a layer one, a foundation that is the most optimized, you can build anything on it. Think about it. If you have the most optimized network, you can run any sort of application, any sort of data call, data function on it, run the internet through it. But guess what? This is better than the internet because this is decentralized. It's not just about money, but it's about data. That's something that you really have to understand. AI is a form of data. Okay, that's an application. It uses AI, and you could put that on the most optimized layer one. That's how it's done. The Open Tensor, they're having a lot of work, having a lot of experience with this AI model. I think they could take it forward, but they have to look long term. They have to look outside the box that they built themselves in. Okay, because they did it. They did it to them.
Let me know what you guys think about this so far. And I think it's pretty interesting, a lot of detail. Now, to keep this balanced for a second, just because Tau is running doesn't mean it's going straight up forever. A move of this side can always pull back. Momentum could cool off. Narratives can get overcrowded. And once everyone starts screaming about the same trade, risk goes up fast. So I'm not saying to chase blindly. What I'm saying is Tau is no longer the kind of story you can ignore. Because whether you're bullish or bearish, something real is happening here in terms of attention, capital, and ecosystem growth. This is Caesar and his market prediction. And let's zoom in even further. Crypto is always looking for its next major category leader, not just a coin that pumps, a coin that represents a bigger theme. Bitcoin has a store of value story. Ethereum has the smart contract story. Solana has the speed and consumer app story. And Tau is increasingly trying to own the decentralized AI story. That is why the market keeps circling back to it, because if decentralized AI becomes one of the major sectors in crypto, then projects at the center of the theme could become very hard to ignore. This is a bet a lot of people are making right now. And here's my personal take. I think a lot of people see Tau as a weird, complicated project that only a niche part of crypto understands, which could be nothing close to the truth of the matter, right? Anyone can understand what's going on here and see that this is a story that cannot be faded, right? It ain't going away. It's always going to be here. But the market may start to realize this. You do not need everyone to understand a story for it to move. You just need enough people to believe. You got to believe in magic that it is important. And once the price starts confirming that belief, more people show up. Then creators start covering it, the traders rotate into it, and the retail starts chasing. Then the narrative gets louder. That's how these things snowball. And Tao feels like it may be in one of those snowball moments right now. So the bottom line today is simple. Tao's not just pumping, Bittensor is becoming a bigger market conversation. You've got a major price run, a hot AI narrative, an exploding subnet interest, and a broader sense of the ecosystem may still be early. That doesn't guarantee anything tomorrow, but it does mean that Tau is one of the most important coins to watch right now if you care about where crypto narratives are heading next. So let's go to um this is Caesar and his Tau predictions.
It's your boy Cesar, and we are talking about Tau today. TAO, Bittensor. Hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. It's the 26th day of March, and I'm sure at this point, all the people who are like me, who are saying that we are near the top or maybe even at the top, they're probably celebrating and being like, I told you so, but probably a little bit preemptively. I'm in a bit of a weird situation here where I'm probably going to get hate from the people who think we're doing this and hate from the people who think we're doing this, because I'm not in either camp. I do think that we're about to move up a little bit more. I do believe we'll get up to this zone, but I do believe that as far as this move is concerned, we're at that final like 10% of the move, guys. And it's really, even if we do move up another like 10 to 30% from here, it's not worth making a bet on at all, right? And actually, I think we could move up even more than 30% if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. 460. Yeah, okay, like 33%. So basically 30%, yeah. And all I'm trying to say here in the beginning is I don't believe this is the high. I believe it looks super scary because we've moved up so far, but I don't believe it's the high. I think that what we're going to see, and typically as moves taper off, I mean, look at this, right? Was this the high? No. It tapered off, and then you got the high, right? Was this even the high? Right here? No. This was the high. You notice how it wasn't like here and then down? It was like here, distribution, and then down, right? Was it here? Was this the high? No, distribution and then down.
And as he's mentioning here, I think that the enhancer. I think that he is saying that it's going to go up again, and I think so too because the weekend is coming, and this might be a payday weekend for some people. So I suspect there's going to be a lot more investing going on. Let me know in the comments what you guys think.
Down, right? You can see it. You can see it every time it happens, right? Like right here. Here, was this the high? Was this the high? No, but it was super scary, but that was the high. This might be kind of a fake out, a bad example in my opinion, but still, even if this wick didn't happen, even if we had lower highs, there's still time to be proven wrong in this distribution zone, right? And you can accept that as time develops. It's possible that this is the high, but anybody right now who's celebrating that this is the high for Tau and that we're going down, that's the end of the move, you're very preemptive. You're what we call, I don't know, you're pre-bearish. I don't know. I got to come up with a better word for that. My mind was going somewhere else, and it wasn't publicly friendly. Anyways, $343, 10 hours, 20 minutes left in the day. Let's get into the short-term stuff. Enough of my shenanigans. I do believe we're going to move higher. And the predominant reason why I believe we're going to move higher is that from a high here, is this the right high to take? Yes. High to low. We've gone above the golden ratio. We've closed above the golden ratio. And typically in this kind of situation, you would continue to the 786, if not the 886 zone. But hold on now. This in itself is not the sole reason why I think that this will happen, right? We go to Tau and we look at the all-time history. Even here, even down here, right? From a high to a low, where did you stop? It was above the 786. It was like basically right at the 786. From a high to a low here, where did you stop whenever you came up? It was above the 886. The first time was like the 786, 886 area, but you even went higher than that. Deep extension, or retracement, sorry, not extension. High to low here. You did stop at the golden ratio, but this overall phase, the high end of the phase was, yes, right at the 786 again, before you actually started to move down. Unless you count October 10th's wacky price action is real, which I don't, but inevitably it came true anyways. So who knows? High to low here, my thought is just that we've never seen it do anything less than a 786. Doesn't mean that that's not good enough. It could be here. Just because it's done that before doesn't mean that this can't be the top. It absolutely can. But what I don't think is logical is to just assume that from here, that's the top, we're moving down. It can happen. Maybe that happens. But typically, you look back again at how Tau tops off. There is, say, Tau tops off 5 times fast. That's probably not that hard to say. Whenever it does top off, it distributes. You go through distribution. So I'm thinking that this top might come in the beginning of April, and then we sell off. That's probably what's going to happen. In the midst of that, you'll have people who, once we move up here, I told you so. Once we move down here, I told you so, and blah, blah, blah. And then everybody will FOMO in at the top, and then that's whenever we sell off. That's when we get our more robust movement. We look at the 1 hour time frame. And what we have here is a very standard corrective process, A, B, C correction. It looks pretty perfect in my opinion. We look at Tau. Let's go on Binance here for the volume. As you're moving down, there's really not, I mean, there's a little bit of volume here, a little bit of volume here as well. Are they buying at the lows though? I mean, that might be what's happening. There might be some buying pressure. And in fact, I'm kind of curious. Let's just see. Like at the low here, I mean, that could be some forced selling, some people selling lows, but again, moments like this, they're generated to make people sell here and not sell at the top. You're selling at a relative good point. Don't get me wrong, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. If you've been strategic about Tau at all, it is a good time to sell. Even if we go up to 460 from here, we move up over $100 from here, it's still a good time to sell. You're not gonna be upset about that, because given a month or two, you're probably going to be at dramatically lower prices than we are even now. But looking at the 1 hour time frame, I'm not convinced that starts here. The RSI is actually very robust, very bullish over here, not getting oversold. That's a good thing. Barely getting oversold, getting overbought consistently and not getting oversold. That's a good thing, guys. Right? We did the same thing here. Everybody thought the move was over, but nope, we kept moving. Stochastics are pointed up. That's a good thing. Bullish divergence on the MACD, higher lows in the histogram, lower lows in the price. That's a good thing. And the oscillators here in the MACD, they're coming down to the 0 level, looking like if we're getting this bullish divergence, we're going to bounce off the 0. That's a good thing on top of a good thing. You got a good thing Sunday going on here, you guys. And I don't mean Sunday as in the day. I mean Sunday as in that delicious little dessert that none of us probably have enough of. We should all get hot fudge Sundays after this. 4 hour time frame. Looking at the RSI, you've got lower lows in the RSI. You've got higher lows in the price. That is hidden bullish divergence is what that is. It's a good thing. Bouncing off the 50 on the stochastics, you guessed it, it's a good thing. And the little cherry on top of our good thing Sunday is that, I mean, the MACD overall is very bullish. I guess there's nothing really good going on right now. We're crossed down. You can have a false cross. And that would definitely be nice to see if we had a false cross here, like we did here. This is a false cross, right? Where you looked bullish, but just kidding, we're bearish. But then you had a bounce off the zero. I mean, overall, the MACD is definitely bullish. It definitely is. But there's not really anything to go off of here, I suppose. Not until if we cross up soon and we provide this to be a false cross, that would definitely be nice to see. I bet if I spent some time and I worked out the parameters of my MACD to where these false crosses went away and instead they got to points that were like this, or it's like they got close to crossing but didn't, I bet there's a way that you could work the parameters out where these false crosses go away, and that would actually be really nice. Because instead of waiting on a false cross, we might wait on like a real cross, which might take a little bit more. It might be a little bit more latent and not as preemptive, but I think that's okay. Anyways, I'm all over the place, man. Daily time frame. Now the daily time frame is interesting, isn't it? There is bearish divergence, but there was bearish divergence the day before that too, and it was even worse. And here again, something that I said in one of my X posts yesterday is that bearish divergence is only realized if you get a red daily candle close. So sure, it looks like bearish divergence now. We have 10 hours left in the day. You're only down 1%. And you look good on your 1 and 4 hour time frames. 10 hours left, looking good on the short-term stuff. I bet you close today green. As long as you're closing today green, and this is the gist of what I said on my X post. I don't want to pull it up because we're taking so much time already. High to low. The gist of what I was saying on my X post was, as long as you're closing green days, this $400 to $460 range is entirely feasible. It's completely reasonable to expect that that's where we're going to go. Because we don't actually have bearish divergence until you have a red daily close. We're at this point now less than 1% away, less than 0.5% away from closing today green. And everybody wants to see. The thing is, guys, you can short Tau. So now you've got people who think they're smart for not buying. They're going to be like, maybe I'm super smart and I'll just short it here. Tau pumps 30%. You're going to wreck everybody going short. I don't care if you're using 5x leverage. You're going to wreck everybody. And then you're wrecking people on the way up. People FOMO, they capitulate. You wreck people on the way down. It's literally like we've seen this happen time and time again throughout this entire market dynamic. I do think, though, looking at this, I mean, thinking in the terms of the future, okay, you do have higher lows, okay? You do have higher highs. The RSI only goes so far. You can't break through 100. You just can't. It's impossible unless the RSI is broken. So could you see a higher high here? Sure. You likely don't see a higher high next time. Likely not. It's incredibly difficult to get above the 90. It's increasingly difficult every increment that you get closer to 100. Likely what's going to happen is we do get a lower high here at some point. Likely, in my opinion, what's going to happen is we're going to see a day where the price pumps up so much that it gets up to these levels, and it's going to look like the RSI doesn't have a lower high, but it has a higher high. And then by the end of the day, the price will come down. It'll leave a big wick in the candle. And what looks like a higher high will actually inevitably close at a lower high, or a double top will be at the top end of this overall trend. Uptrends in the RSI typically end in the oversold zone. And what better way to end it than with a double top or bearish divergence or even a slightly higher high, whatever. And then all it's left to do there is break out of your trend, establish a new trend, a downward sloping trend, and then maybe cry for about a month or two if you bought the top. Dangerous idea here to go short, but I think in about another $100 or so, it won't be so dangerous. It's always dangerous though. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor. Maybe don't do it. Stochastics don't look good. Sorry, they don't look bad. They don't look bad. They do look good. They're overbought. They're very hot. They look nice. They do look good. Sorry, they do look good. They don't look bad. That's what I was trying to say. If you even like switch the words the way that I said it, I was like, they don't look good. If I said they don't look bad, that would have been, that's how I meant to say it, was they don't look bad. They don't look bad. You know, they're overbought. There's not really a whole lot to go off of there. The MACD, lower highs here. You have bearish divergence presenting itself, not confirmed. Now with the MACD, it's not a red day that confirms bearish divergence. It's when you get a pale body. So right now they're all deep colored. They're not pale. right? It's the deep green, not the pale green, or the dark green, whatever you want to call it. Whenever it turns pale, that's when you get the bearish divergence confirmed, which doesn't necessarily mean you have a red day, right? We have a red day right now, technically, and that's still deep green. But bearish divergence presenting itself on multiple daily time frame indicators. We're at the end of our ropes. I don't care if we got another 30%. I'm not touching it. I'm not touching it. Why am I not touching it? Somebody asked me a question like, but you say that you like to make short-term trades. If you think it's going to go up another, I mean, I would think it goes up anywhere from 16 to about 33%. Why wouldn't I make this trade? It's because that's nice. That's a good thought. But here's another one. You're up about 140%, almost 2.5x. And overall, you've seen a over 2.5x in a bear market. You're the only shining star in a pit of despair and darkness. Maybe not the only one, but one of the only ones. I've been through this before. This is my fourth bear market. Coins like this are distractions. They make you sell your coins that are down here that haven't pumped at all while this one's pumping. They make you sell these ones down here, and then you buy this one at the highs, and then it dumps on you. And then these coins dump too. They both dump together, and they're at the same point, right, of dumping overall from like wherever the point was to begin with. But because you bought up here, you're experiencing much more pain than the average person. So I think it's completely appropriate to stay away from here, especially if in a month, a lot of you who would buy here are expecting that this thing is going to go to 1,000. It's going to go to 3,000. You're not in it for the short term, right? So if you're in it for the long term, you're going to get boned. It's not good to buy at these levels, even if it does go up a little bit. Now, if you have it in mind to buy here and sell like above $400, between $400 to $460 somewhere, and you have tight stop loss parameters, maybe like if we go below,
we might have to agree to disagree, but I do think there is more pump coming in the short term. Long term, it's going to continue to go up as well to 1,000 to 3,000, maybe long term. But I think it's going to keep inching up. It's going to pull back and inch up some more, pull back and inch up some more. But again, it's not financial advice. This is just what I think. But let me know in the comments. Put a fire emoji if you think it's going up. Put a star if you think it's going to start going down. But let me know in the comments. And let's do the last little video and then we'll shut it down. So this is my main man, Cade. Let's see what Cade has to say about Bittensor.
The year of Bittensor, it is potentially shaping up to do something very similar to what we've seen out of things like Solana, Ethereum, Bitcoin, really kind of having a run defined by it. And I think that Bittensor really could be in this position because it has one of the key things that these major others have had, which is community and ecosystem building around and on top of this base asset. And so this to me is the really important and key piece about Tau. We're going to also have some kind of high, some watermark comparisons about what Tau could look like in terms of price if it hits some of these various levels. So let's go ahead. We'll dive right on in talking all about it. First off, taking a look at the crypto bubbles, you can see here today a pretty green day in the market. You actually see Tau right here up about 4.4%. It's done up about 30% just this week and over 100% this month though. So Tau has just been going absolutely crazy. It's really starting to catch some eyes. It is actually on a bit of a pullback right now. You can see down about $20 below what its current most recent high was. We're going to be going into the Tau chart here in just a moment to talk about kind of what that could look like and what that means. We have a lot of others though in the ecosystem, kind of AI related, that are seeming to have pretty decent runs here. You can see right behind my picture, we've got Fetch. We also have things like Render. We've got others that are kind of, AI adjacent, all kind of throughout here. AI definitely the one, Siren being another one that is having kind of a crazy run. Pretty impressive stuff there too. So overall, I want to talk about what this kind of looks like for Bittensor, what we're seeing, and what we could potentially be seeing next. Now, as you'll see here, I have the chart loaded up. This is on the hourly, so you can see kind of exactly how things are shaping up right now. We're really kind of focused on this $315 range. If we zoom back out a little bit and go to the daily, you'll see that this $315 range had kind of been the area that we had difficulty getting out of back in November. We were kind of against this descending trend line. We broke out of it, and we just couldn't get above this level of resistance, getting rejected multiple different times before eventually falling much lower. Well, now we actually have broken through this, and it does look like we will be holding above. It's almost impossible to say for sure. Of course, we are seeing a good bit of wicking, which I do think means we'll probably come back for a retest. And in my opinion, this retest is going to be the thing that I'm looking for. Now, of course, on the daily, you will see we are a decent bit overbought right now. We are also pushing the tops of the Bollinger Bands. So again, we should expect to see this maybe kind of calm down a little bit. I think probably the highest conviction play we could have if you are looking for like a short to midterm trade is looking for that retest back on this level of support, and then seeing a kind of a support level and a bounce back up, moving to the upside. That to me would be kind of the ideal scenario here. Now, if we go back and look at the hourly and kind of get a little bit closer up in what's been going on recently, you'll see a few really, really key things. Now, we've been talking about Tau for a very, very long time here on the channel, but at least as of recently, when we've been talking about Tau, we were back kind of in this range. And one of the things that we had seen was the really nice move back up into the 300s, the rejection back down into kind of this 260 level of support, and then we held. And that was the point at which I was saying, this is a good point to potentially, again, if you were looking to trade Tau, this would be a good point to do it, because we had a key break of resistance. We've now actually settled on this as a support multiple times. And now we're seeing the Bollinger Bands tighten, looking for kind of that expansion of volatility and volume at some point. Now, again, we did see that, and we've had a very, very nice move looking to break above. Now, I personally did take a Tau trade, and I took a trade starting about in this range, essentially off of this bounce off the retest. And then I actually had some take profits back in this range because I was not sure if we'd be able to break through this level of resistance. Now, of course, we did. I am busy, kind of in my real life with a job. I still kind of work a job, the whole day and some. And so, I'm not here watching the charts all day. If I was watching the charts, what I would have done is probably taken a little bit here and left the rest to see if we could break through. Now, of course, in this range, it looked like we were seeing a little bit of rejection. Depending on kind of how stingy you are with your stop losses, that could have potentially stopped out, because we did see a little bit of that wick right here from the looks of it collecting liquidity before that move back to the upside. If you would have just kind of left it and set it at break even, then this would have been an absolutely wonderful trade. So this is, of course, those who are looking to short to midterm trade. If you are looking to long-term trade Tau, a little bit further on in the video is where it's going to be more relevant to you, because there's potential massive, massive upside here for Tau. And interestingly enough, the people from that kind of all-in podcast cohort seem to be talking a good bit about Tau. All of them, I'm sure they're talking about it together, but they're also kind of talking publicly somewhat separately about it, which is pretty interesting. Now, of course, if you go ahead and look here, we can see this post. Thread Guy is talking about Jason Calacanis being, kind of to Tau what Naval was for Zcash when Zcash went and had its massive, massive move. You can see here that Jason actually responded to this, talking a little bit more about his strategy, what his thoughts are regarding Tau, and all of this type of stuff. Now, of course, you could see here, I bet on things that are extremely speculative, and I lose my money on 80+% of startups we invest in. Again, he's a very, very, very high risk, high reward type of trader. I would say many of us probably are in crypto, particularly if you're still around messing with altcoins. But again, just as a very clear clarification, both from Jason as well as me, this is not financial advice. You have to be making sure that you understand the decisions that you're making. With anything that claims to be high upside, it is also high risk, just implicitly. That's just how it goes. Now, moving along, you can see though, this is I bet to learn often, which means after some cursory investigations into a technology, I will make a series of bets that drag me deep into the rabbit hole. Tau is exactly that kind of bet to learn more. Not financial advice, do your own research. It could go to zero as easily as 500 billion market cap in my mind. No crying in the casino, please. Interesting that he throws a market cap kind of valuation on this. Understand that he's not mentioning price, because anybody at least somewhat sophisticated in the world of finance really talks in market cap more than price, because price is arbitrary, right? I mean, if I have 100,000 billion, million, trillion coins, well, getting to $1 may be near impossible, right? But if I have like 7 coins, getting to like $10 million market cap might be totally doable, again, based off of, but the price there would be, $1 million per coin or whatnot. So again, that is the really, really kind of key piece of this. Now, moving along, again, as we're kind of talking about market caps and things like that, I decided I would go plug this in and see where kind of Tau at its current price would look hitting different milestones. Now, the first one we have, I chose Hyperliquid because Hyperliquid has actually done very, very well this cycle, even though it's been a relatively underwhelming cycle for altcoins. Hyperliquid has, I would say, probably pretty comfortably been the winner here. Now, if Tau were to catch up to Hyperliquid, we would actually see a $1,000 Tau, about a 2.86x from where we are currently. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I was comparing it more to Solana, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. The reason why I'm comparing it to each of these is because these are ecosystems with things built around them, right? When Solana went crazy, it's because there were things going on inside of Solana. We had the meme coins, we had the NFTs, we had the lending, we had all of that type of stuff going on. And that was all within the Solana ecosystem, driving up the value and therefore use case of Solana, and along with it, price. Same thing with Ethereum. We saw all of that DeFi started on Ethereum. We had the initial NFTs with like CryptoPunks and Bored Apes and things like that. There's been a whole bunch of stuff going on in ETH, and you can see a market cap to reflect that. Now, if we were to see going back a little bit, well, actually, we'll go forward and then we'll go back. With Bitcoin, not necessarily as much of an ecosystem play, but it is kind of the first to do it, right? I mean, the ecosystem of Bitcoin basically just is crypto generally. Without Bitcoin, there's definitely not like 85 to 95% of all the things that we see currently in crypto, because Bitcoin is the one that started the thing. So while we're looking at ETH subsets being an ecosystem within itself, in my opinion, Bitcoin kind of is the crypto for crypto as a whole. And so that's kind of why I included Bitcoin in here. Now, if we go ahead and look back to Sol in terms of kind of my ecosystem plays, you will see here $5,400, which would be about a 15x from here at the current prices of Tau. Now, again, of course, we don't actually know where Tau is going to go in price. This is just based on market caps and comparables from what we're seeing right now. Now, the next thing that you might notice here is that's an expensive Tau. Why is it so much compared to Solana, which is at this price and is only a couple $100? Well, that's why. That's exactly why. It's because there's so fewer Tau than something like a Solana. Even you'll see there's fewer Tau than Ethereum, because at the same price of Ethereum, which is about 260 billion in market cap, it would be about $27,000, which is about a 77x from here. Keep in mind something very interesting is back on the post that we saw Jason Calacanis make, he's saying it could go to zero as easily as 500 billion market cap in my mind. Well, that would be about double what we're seeing here, which would be pretty close to a $55,000 Tau, which would be absolutely insane, getting close to 150 to 160x there. So basically any dollar that you put into Tau, you're turning into $150, $160, which is pretty interesting. Of course, again, a lot would have to go right to get there, but that is kind of a number that Jason threw out, which I found quite interesting. Now, moving along to Bitcoin, again, I think, at this point, probably not super common that we see something like this happen, but if we were, we would be seeing $147,000 Tau, which is close to a 420x from here, which would be pretty nice. Now, the thing that you may find interesting is those of you who understand Tau and who know Tau a little bit better than the average bear, you will know that Tau actually has the same number and kind of the same schedule as Bitcoin. So why would Tau have a higher price than what Bitcoin has right now, which is only about 70K? Well, the reason why is because Tau is kind of earlier in on the vesting schedule, right? So there's still a lot more Tau to be collected by mining and by validating Tau. And so that is kind of still an upside there that we could potentially see Tau doing. And also, if we see some of these prices, I don't expect them to come within the next year. It's probably the next 5 to 7 years. The thing that I kind of mentioned earlier, and I think I want to dive a little bit more into before we wrap the video, is I want to talk about kind of the subnets of Tau, because again, every major crypto that has done crazy things in various cycles has that ecosystem play. And so I want to talk a little bit about the ecosystem of Tau, and it's actually already moving pretty crazy. So first one I want to talk about here is the Templar. Now this is of course all on Tau stats. This is an ecosystem all within Tau. You can see here that Templar is actually, we talked about this in about a video 3 or so weeks ago, where we were talking about Templar and it had completing its first fully decentralized training run, a 72 billion parameter model completely done in a decentralized fashion, which is like completely unheard of and basically thought of not possible until Tau did it on the Templar network. And so pretty interesting stuff. And you can see here, the price has gone crazy to show. It has moved from about 0.03 Tau to about 0.09 Tau. Again, everything is within the Tau ecosystem, which is what gives Tau its value as well. But if you consider that, it went from about 0.03 Tau, which at today's dollars would be about $10. Keep in mind, Tau has about doubled since then. So it would have been about $5 to about $30 to where we're seeing now. So about a 6x in the span of about a month coming from something like Templar. Now, again, Templar has already moved because of that news, but there's many other projects within the Tau ecosystem. Another one that you may or may not be familiar with is something like Bitcast. Bitcast allows essentially for companies to, in a decentralized way, put out essentially like a request for people to make content about their project or their thing that they want to share and get more visibility in the audience. Bitcast essentially facilitates that in a decentralized way. You can see that Bitcast has actually done relatively well. Not anything crazy like the Templar network, but Templar also had some major improvements. This is something that I could expect to see grind up over the next kind of coming months and years if that subnet itself continues to provide value. And so there's a lot of different things going on within the Tau ecosystem that individually provide a lot of value. And so if individually they continue to provide more and more value, then in the aggregate, we should continue to see the value of Tau as a whole continue to go up. So in my opinion, again, this is my personal strategy, you make your own decision, but in my opinion, I am looking to kind of primarily position within the Tau coin itself, because I believe that we are still early. If we go back, we'll actually pull up the Tau chart right now. If we go back and look, you will see we're actually not even back to, like, really not even close back to previous all-time highs for Tau. Previous all-time high for Tau was back at $750. We are less than half that at $350. So in my opinion, if you kind of look at the ways back that we have to go, we have plenty of room. Now, we could see basically a 2x off of Tau before we even get back to previous all-time highs. And then from there, we could see kind of that all-time high breakout. This is all what I am paying attention to. This is all what, in my opinion, needs to happen first before we get into the subnets. And the subnets, of course, could go crazy. Think about things like the big winners on Solana and the big winners on Ethereum. They could do much better than what the Tau coin does itself. But that is, of course, also a lot riskier because you're going down that extra level, as we've talked about many times on the channel. So overall, hopefully that makes sense. I'd love to hear your comments and your thoughts. Do you think I'm crazy and up in the night with my kind of price predictions for Tau and what we could see? I overall think that probably something of the scale of Hyperliquid seems fairly reasonable. I think something to the scale of Solana seems doable. And then if things get really crazy with like some sort of AI mania, then probably something on the order of Ethereum I do think is attainable, maybe even more, which would be insane. So overall, these are my thoughts. I'm primarily looking to stay, again, positioned through many different high conviction altcoins. But as it relates to Tau specifically, positioned primarily in Tau with slight allocations and exposures to subnets that I find interesting and useful. After that, we'll, as the Tau ecosystem continues to shine, then I will be looking to maybe move a little bit further down and place specific bets a little bit more heavily on specific subnets. Now, overall, again, hopefully you found the information useful. If you did, like, subscribe, all that type of stuff. I'd love to hear anything that you may be struggling with if you're not understanding something.
So big shout out to Cade O'Neill for that Tau update. And I think this has been very informational. So if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. In the comments, let me know, is Tau still early or is this move already too crowded? So let's open it up Tau is a big, subnets are exploding, and the centralized or decentralized AI narrative is getting louder. Is Bittensor still early, or are we already late? But thanks for joining. Tau might be one of the most important crypto stories people still aren't talking about enough. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, let's get back to the money and stay dangerous. It's your main man, BTM, signing out. Miners out. Thanks for joining, and come back tomorrow. Same bat channel, same bat time. Peace out.